We are genuinely so excited to have you here. I'm Miya,
And I'm Kayla.
and we're about to get into a really insightful convo. But before we do, I want to get to know y'all. As people are still coming in, I still see some familiar faces and I see some new faces as well. So we'd like to kick off with a cute little icebreaker. It's no pressure at all. If I call on you, please just unmute yourself, tell us your name, where you're from, projects you're working on, and what's your favorite release of 2022. Okay, let's get started. I see Macy. Macy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Macy Crawford. I'm a singer-songwriter based in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm currently working towards completing my second EP, and my favorite release, I think it was released in 2022. I could be wrong, but Rosalia's album, Motomami, I think it's album of the year. So
Nice, nice. It's nice to have you here. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. Joseph Murphy.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good, thank you. How'd you find out about our event today?
You guys do some really good Instagram marketing.
That's great. Thank you so much. Any projects you're
Yeah.
working on? Favorite release of 2022?
I have multiple different songs coming along, as I'm sure we all can relate, but none of them have been completed yet. Yeah, I have a few songs out right now on Spotify and all the other platforms with DistroKid and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's been a minute. Anyway, favorite release of 2022 would be Kendrick's album, and hands
Yeah,
down. Yeah, I would love to say something more indie and niche, but I've been waiting for it for 5 years.
yeah, of course. No
So,
worries at all. Thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you.
Charisse, how are you?
Hi, it's nice to see everybody here and have this good energy on the call.
Hey, Charisse, we
I-
missed you.
Hello. Yeah, I might be a little sick today, but I'm Charisse. I am a vocalist and composer, and I've been performing for so long. What were the other questions? Sorry.
If you've been working on any projects this year
Oh,
and your favorite release of 2022.
for sure. Okay, I'm currently working on an album after taking like a year off. So I've been going to the studio. I'm really excited to get back in the game, but for real this time, like, meeting up with people and collaborating. And my favorite release of 2020, Kendrick, of course, because I was waiting for that. I'm waiting on Beyonce too. I was
Of
praying for
course.
that.
Yeah.
But I think personally, We Go Up, Nicki Minaj and who is it? Lil Baby?
Fabio.
Oh,
Fabio.
Fabio? I think. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that's like on my heavy rotation at the moment. So I
Great
twins.
song, great song.
All right. I see Joey. How are you?
What's up? I'm great. How are you all?
Joey, we love seeing you every single weekend. You bring the energy. Hello.
I love you guys.
Love you as well.
I think
Joey-
I missed the intro, so I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. So right now we're just going over like what do you do, where you from, any projects you're working on, favorite release of 2022.
Okay, cool. So I'm an artist and producer. I live in New York, and I just released my first single. I'm working on my second single right now.
That's amazing.
I'm super excited about it. And my favorite release of 2022, I've been listening to this artist, Alisa here. I think that's how you say his name. Just dropped this album called The Magician. It's so good. It's like one of my favorite things I've heard, honestly, in years. So definitely recommend it. Independent artist.
Right. Thank you for joining us, Joey.
Yeah, good to see you.
Likewise. Let me see if there's one more person. Let's see. Shakira.
Hey,
Hey.
everyone. I haven't been on here in a minute and I miss you guys so much.
We missed
Shakira,
you. We missed you.
welcome back.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Shakira, of course. Right now I'm currently interning at Interscope Records in the publicity department. I've been in LA for the past month and a half, and it's been crazy, which is why I haven't been able to, get on. But right now I'm currently working on managing artists. I started finally taking on clients. I've been taking on clients for publicity, doing PR, and overall, my first of all, I'm sorry, I have to just let everyone know my favorite song for 2022 is Rob 49 Vulture Island featuring Little Baby. Most people don't know it is the best song of 2022.
That's a good one.
Thank
That's
you.
a good one.
Thank you.
Agreed.
So I gotta put everyone on. If you don't know it, look it up. But yes, nice meeting everyone who I haven't met yet, and I'm excited for today.
Thank you for coming back. Oh my God, it's so nice to see you again. All right. So we want to get started. That's what's up. That's awesome. Nice to see you all. Kayla, why don't you get us started?
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to Finessed Media's weekly Saturday event. I'm Kayla, one of your co-hosts, along with Miya. We're super excited to be discussing releasing music as an indie artist with you all today. We have Brian Arkin, Esther Bilson, Lauren Gaspard, and Angela Gali speaking with us today. We'll be covering the different roles in the music industry, why these roles are relevant in releasing music, and a little bit of marketing tips for indie artists. So make sure you have a pen and paper ready to go. Do I see some pen and papers? Show me if you got a notebook. I got my notebook right here. 1 second. I got it right here, ready to go for some notes. So yeah.
Okay. And so just a quick rundown of our schedule today. We'll have a discussion with our speakers from 12:10 to about 12:45. Then 12:45 to 1 p.m. we'll have a juicy audience Q&A where you can ask all of your questions, but save some for the networking session, because at 1 p.m. we'll be connecting with everyone. You can get all your questions out to the audience members as well. And don't forget, our team will be dropping a contact sheet every now and again. So be sure to drop your information so we can connect with each other after the event. All right, so let's dive right in and let's get our speakers up and pinned. So we have the lovely Brian Arkin. We have Esther Bilson, Lauren Gaspard, and Angela Gali speaking with us today.
If you're excited, drop a woot woot in the chat. Come on, guys.
Woo, woo.
Woo, woo.
Woo, woo. All right. And now that we have all of our speakers up, let's get into it. All right. So Kayla and I have had the privilege of speaking with you all individually beforehand, but I know everyone's dying to get to know about you and your stories. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you got your start in the industry? And Lauren, why don't you start us off?
Okay, I sure will. Hey guys, good morning for me. I'm in LA, so it's early, but I'm here. I'm up with y'all. How did I get started? My story's a little long. I went to Howard. I graduated from Howard University. While I was at school, I participated in the homecoming committee and things like that. And in my major, I knew I wanted to be in music. And I knew I wanted to be in urban music, specifically for Black people. That was something that I wanted to do. I was very, very passionate about it. I won't even say music. I said I wanted to be in entertainment. And as I graduated and started moving, I was like, you know what? No, I want to be in music specifically. So I got a couple internships and moved around. I landed my first music internship with BET. I was a PA, and I was kind of traveling around the country and doing production work with them, and ultimately parlayed that into an internship with ASCAP here in LA, which led me to another internship with Compound Entertainment, which was Neo's company. And at the time, we had just had a joint venture. We just signed a joint venture with Motown. And so I pretty much ran the office as an intern. I was working like 6 months for free. It was like, shit, oh well, I'm sorry, I don't know how to curse, but I'm cursing.
You're good.
6 months, I was in there, I'm like, all right, bet. I went from being an intern to running the creative. I ran all the A&R admin. I did all the general management for the label. I was the face of the label because I worked with all men and nobody wanted to come into the office. So I was pretty much the one that had to have first point of contact with me and then disseminate information to everybody else. But from there, I ended up, obviously working that into a full-time paid position with them. I was with them for about 5 years. And then I went to the agency space and did live music. So I did a lot of brand partnerships and brokered for festivals. So I worked on Afro Punk, A3C, Lollapalooza, South by Southwest. A lot of content plays I did for artists. But what I had was I wanted to be a marketer, but I brought my music relationships to what I was doing. It worked out. And did that for a little bit. And then from there, I actually went back to ASCAP as a director. So I was the director of urban rhythm and soul over there for 2 years. And now I couldn't put it in my title, but I'll just say it. Now I'm the director of urban marketing at Interscope. So I've done a lot in a small amount of time. But yeah, that's a quick snapshot. I know that was like long-winded, but here we are.
And shout out West Coast and the illustrious HU. All right. Angela, how about you?
Hi guys, thanks for having me here. Lauren, I just have to say, I want to be you. So I'm Angela. How did I get into the music industry? I feel like since before I could even remember, like I knew I loved music. I started piano lessons at age 6, studied piano, and then went on to middle school where I was presented with a list of options, a list of different instruments that I can pick, and I decided I want to pick the weirdest looking instrument that I could find. So I learned how to play the trombone in middle school. Super cool. Definitely had my arm like extended for quite a long time. But that super weird instrument also led me into being accepted into LaGuardia Arts High School in New York. And there I also, continued my studies with trombone. I had about 4 hours of music classes a day for 4 years, and that was wonderful. But what a conservatory type environment taught me was that I don't want to be a musician, but I do want to be in the music business. I always thought that I kind of had that brain for it, and being able to like talk to people, and I just figured that was like more of what I wanted to do. So I ended up attending SUNY Purchase in White Plains, New York. I studied arts management and double majored in economics. And so those go together very well, surprisingly enough. And then I graduated in 2019. I started at TuneCore. Before TuneCore, though, I did have a couple of like really cool internships when I was in college. I interned at Jazz at Lincoln Center, which was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Blue Note Entertainment Group. I was an intern at an artist management firm, a jazz artist management firm located at Birdland Jazz Club, which is a really cool place to be for sure. And now I'm at TuneCore. I started on the artist support team. Got to talk to a lot of artists every single day, and now I am on the copyright team, which is super cool.
Amazing. It's so inspiring to hear all of these stories. There's different walks of life in the industry, and that's something that I could admire. Esther, tell us what's going on.
So me landing in the music industry honestly came at the right time and by chance. So I have a science background. I studied agricultural science in university. And when I finished, I was just looking for a job and ready for whatever the job market had to offer at the time. And a close friend of mine who was already in the music space here in Ghana, she runs a platform that aims to amplify alternative African, musicians. So she was the one who kind of introduced me into the music space. And fortunately at that time, Amaarae's team was looking for an assistant. And I was like, hey, I'm available. So that's honestly how my journey in the music industry started about 4 years ago. And it's been such an insightful journey so far, learning the things that I've learned, on the job, seeing how intricate the music business is.
Right.
it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
All right, that's wonderful. And last but not least, we have Brian Arkin. What's going on?
So I started college thinking I was going to go for neuroscience, actually.
Mhm.
But I grew up playing music, piano. I did theater. I also played trombone. And I kind of didn't know there was a business to it. I was just like, oh, you're either a musician or you're not. Um, I realized very quickly science wasn't for me, and I transferred to a college in upstate New York called Oneonta, um, where I studied music business. So I wasn't exactly sure what sector of the industry I was going to do, but my internships um, kind of stuck to sync licensing, and also I did marketing at a music venue. So I did that both summers, and then I kind of was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted, and I really had an interest in copyright, intellectual property. So I thought I was going to go to law school. Um, I worked as a paralegal for 2.5 years. I kind of figured out that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I wanted to navigate back into the business. So,
Mhm.
for me, I was like, what am I interested in? I like the business. I also like, the operations. Where I then found my job at Warner on the catalog team.
Awesome.
And I've been there a little over a year and a half, as well as working with the Digilog as their national curator. And then I also do business development for an organization it's a nonprofit called Gen Admissions. Also bring, materials and education on music industry to, people all over the world.
Mhm.
But, like we've been saying, and we talked about, there's definitely no direct path. I kind of like bounced around. I probably still bounce around. I'm only 26, so I have no doubt I'm going to continue bouncing.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely like no one path, as Miya said, and you never know where one single opportunity can take you in this industry. And it's as simple as, sending a message to someone you admire and just saying, hey, I love your work, and you never know where a genuine message can take you.
Exactly.
So now that you guys introduce yourselves, can you tell me a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis and how that kind of relates to the releasing music process? Feel free to keep your mics unmuted and just hop in whenever you want.
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in then, I guess. So I work on the catalog team, and essentially what we do is when Warner Music purchases or license a catalog of music, which is like an entire label or an artist's entire catalog, it goes to our team. So what that means is kind of getting it from one either distributor or one entity or one label to our label. So it's a lot of data, it's a lot of, supply chain management, but essentially what my team does is once we kind of get all the necessary data and information, metadata from either another distributor or another label, we're checking it to our standards and then pushing it out into the marketplace. And that's sending it to DSPs and making sure it gets there correctly. For those who don't know, DSP, digital service provider like Spotify, Apple, things like that.
Yes.
So it's on a pretty large scale. So I'm not working with like one or two artists. It's an entire label. So it ranges from 100 albums to 1,000 to 11,000. And the one thing about my job, it's very international. So we work with labels all over the world. I've worked with ones in Africa, Germany, the States. It's a little bit of everything, but it's definitely introduced me to a ton of music I wouldn't know, but also just different cultures and different things I might have not been as keen to, especially like different genres of music I have never heard of.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that side. Getting exposure through catalog, experiencing new music through that avenue. I definitely didn't think about that, so that's a great point.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Kate Bush, all the sync opportunities, everything like that. So catalog is very, very popular nowadays.
I could probably jump in here just because where I am is a little bit similar to Brian's. So I work for TuneCore. I'm in the copyright department, but as I mentioned before, I was in the artist support department, previously up until, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Basically what TuneCore does is we distribute independent artists' music to distribution platforms like Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, name it, we distribute there. And we collect royalties for them, pay them out, 100% of the royalties the distribution royalties that they earn in these stores. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is I kind of educate and enforce the DMCA, which stands for the Digital Millennium Copyright Act policies.
Oh.
Basically, like what happens when you sign up with TuneCore, and I'm sure it's very similar to DistroKid, CD Baby, all the independent distributors, is you sign up with like an independent distributor and you agree that you have 100% of the rights to distribute the content that you are putting into stores, that you're using our service to put into stores.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes people are a little bit not telling the truth when they sign that, or they are and they just don't have the proper proof to show like, yes, I do have an agreement with a person that says I can distribute this content. I'm definitely going to talk more about that later. But what I do is I kind of act as the middleman. I'm a team of two right now, myself and my manager, James Nance. And what we do is we receive copyright claims from third-party claimants or from stores where the third-party claimants kind of submit the claims through the stores. They reach out to us and say, we don't think that you have the rights to this. This person is claiming that your customer is distributing this and infringing on their rights. So what we do is we kind of investigate that process. Now, I will say that we don't like pick sides. We certainly will not be in favor of our customer. We will not be in favor of the third party. It's up to the courts. And what we do is we just follow the DMCA takedown steps. We notify our customer of the issue. We put them in contact with the claimant, or we say, hey, you guys have to go to court to resolve this. Let the courts, have the courts let us know what the result is, and then we kind of take it from there. Now, there's a whole big thing, there's a million things that I could tell you about the day-to-day process, but that's pretty much like the overall picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Copyright and reading up on policies is definitely an important step in being an artist, for sure. Esther, we know you do a lot of the logistics and day-to-day stuff. Can you dive into a little bit about your role?
Absolutely. So I'll tackle this more from, an artist management perspective. So in the context of release, there are a range of activities that I do, and it includes, coordinating and interfacing with some of our external collaborators, partners, and vendors. Releases, as we all know, can be extremely hectic. So it's important that you do have, a team member that is plugged into all of these moving parts in your releases. Okay.
For sure.
And that person in the end, or let me say for this context, me. So I'm essentially like the all-seeing eye. I have to make sure that I'm very aware of everything that's going on, because I serve as a bridge between management and these external partners. And then to just dive in a little deeper. So once you're ready for a release, of course, you have to have your music. There's no release without music. So once you have your music, it's important to have a conversation with your artists to discuss details about the collaborators on that track, producers, featured artists, engineers, and understand what the splits are on that. Publishing, royalties, ask if any samples were used in any music, just to make sure that while we are working through paperwork, you are making sure you're getting the necessary clearance to, put that track out. And it's super important to make sure you have all these legal stuff done prior to release, because it can get messy when, there are loose ends and
exactly.
it's just chaotic. Now that you have that done, now you're ready to share the music with maybe your press, with your DSPs. There's always lead time for pitching. If you're looking for really good placements and stuff like that, it's important to be able to share some of these things with these external partners so that they can digest the music and know where to place you, know what opportunities best suit your artist. The longer lead time you give these PR people, your DSPs, even booking agents, the better it is for you. That way, you know that you're going step by step, making sure that you are tapping into all the resources that you need. Because already as an indie artist, you are limited with your resources, and you need to be as efficient as you possibly can be. Once you've, pitched, gotten your placements, and you're ready to drop your music, now it's the rollout. The rollout, you have your timelines, you have deadlines. Being the connector between the management and these external partners, it's important that, I ensure that the team is delivering what they need to deliver. Assets, all the necessary items that you need for a successful release. And even speaking on assets, have an asset checklist. And this checklist should include, your audio files in different formats, your explicit versions, radio edits, WAV files, MP3s, just so that when opportunities come and people are looking for music, it's easily accessible. You're not now like scrambling for all of that. Press photos, updated bios, like have a nice packet ready so that as soon as you click go on that campaign, you're just running.
Yes, for sure. Esther, you gave some great tips. It seems like from Angela and Brian's side, the importance of copyrights, getting the legalities down. And then Esther, you're talking about liaising between both, the artist team and third parties and, making sure you get all these things done. So Lauren, can you cover a little bit about like the post-release strategy? What do you do in the day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, I feel like Esther should have my job. It's so funny because I am Amaarae's product manager, right? So now what this is that me and Esther, the third party that Esther is talking about, she's talking about me. Like,
yes.
So we could actually have a real conversation right now because we delivered a record. So we know what this looks like, right? So ultimately, to Esther's point, as a director of marketing, obviously I'm still a high level product manager. So product manager, I have to take all the departments and I have to sit at the top and make all the departments fuse into one package that's prepared for rollout. So like Esther said, making sure publicity is on the same page, digital's on the same page. Obviously, I can't have to make sure A&R delivers what they have to deliver, make sure the records are cleared with our business affairs. The journey of a record goes through all those hoops. And then ultimately from direct to consumer, when you see it as a consumer, we've been doing the back and the leg work for at least a month, right? On making sure those things are taken care of. Esther spoke about a 2-week lead time for pitch. We have to make sure all those things are in order, especially as a new artist, right? I definitely want to say this, like if you're a Drake or a Beyonce, you don't need a pitch tool, right? Curators are going to pick up your record. Radio's going to pick up your record. That's not something you have to worry about. But as a new artist, you have to give me time to be able to push your record to a curator and put you in the forefront and introduce you to the market. And what that is that's ultimately why we need lead time to create those things and create those assets, because you guys are stepping into a place that's obviously saturated, right? So if on any given week, right, as a label, we have 15 releases, that's only us. You can imagine if Interscope has 15, Epic has 15, RCA has 15, you see where I'm going, that's like 150 songs every Friday that somebody has to go through and say, I want to listen to that. So how can we make that stand out, right? And I always say that post-release is the most important part of your release, because you put the record out, but you have to work the record.
Exactly.
So once you have your post-release strategy should continue to still be as aggressive as your pre-release, in my opinion. So if that looks like setting up certain marketing drivers, if that, as much as I know TikTok is important, I don't have to see it in another marketing plan ever again, but I get it. Like, we have to make sure that we utilize those tools that are placed in, put in place to make sure that we're driving. And ultimately now, because music comes out so fast and because it comes out at the pace that it comes out, we have to sell lifestyle as well, right? So there has to be a point of entry or a point of relatability for people to say, go back to whatever it is that, you know, we've decided to put out. Let's say hypothetically, you're an artist that has a back catalog, right? And you're putting out something new, you're just recently signed and you have 3 other EPs that you put out in the past. We want to make sure that even those records are set up right. Because of course, once I push you in a space where now you're visible, people want to go back and attach that to some type of music. So ultimately, I'm just a huge person or a huge believer in making sure my marketing drivers are in place that are authentic and make sense. You know, and of course, another thing too, like, don't feel like you have to drop a record every 4 weeks. Like, you have to give the record time to move. R&Bs is a slow mover. You know what I'm saying? R&B records are slow to move, right? You know, depending on, you know, how, you know, we just announced a signing last week with Glorilla, right? Glorilla is assigned to CMG, the FNF record, right? We just announced that. But keep in mind, the record's been working for at least 3 months. And we're not gonna stop working the record either. Like, so we're gonna work now that she's signed. That gives an extra leg to another 3 months that we could work Glorilla while we get our project together and then get ready to put it out. So there's strategy behind a lot of what we do. And I think that's where, as the marketer, I sit at, because I have to make sure, while yes, we want to put out records and everybody gets excited, it's like, slow down, because it all has to make sense. It has to be aligned with strategy. So I think that's something that I would consider being super important. And I don't know if that answered the question, but
no, definitely. You definitely gave out some tips, you know, the way you said it, pre-release strategy has to be as strong as your post-release strategy. Don't forget about after releasing your music, and make sure your marketing is on point post-release. So yeah.
Yep.
Right. And I really do love what you said about like sustaining hype. Like, you know, there's a lot going on with like attention economics and like wanting to sustain hype, but also wanting to have that train of thought of we need quality over quantity. So thank you so much for that. And
I want to say in the comments, I'm seeing a lot of like EPK and things like that. EPKs are great. I would condense the EPK to a 1 sheet.
Great tip. Great tip.
You know, like EPKs are good if we're trying to, you know, pitch an event or something like that. But as far as an artist, all my artists have 1 sheet where I can see bio, I can click I can hyperlink out the socials, I can hyperlink out DSP accounts, I can hyperlink out everything that I need in this one place. Any, like, you know, standout press points, all those things can be literally completed in 1 page. Because you just don't want to take attention from having to put any work on somebody if they're trying to get to the point. Like, just send them the sheet and let them take it as they will.
Yeah.
I find that kind of like speeds, it kind of keeps the attention versus like having to shuffle through, you know, a 5-page deck, so to speak. I just wanted to say that while we were talking about it.
All good. That's a great alternative resource if people are looking. You can also have an EPK and a 1 sheet set up, you know, for differing clients. So yeah.
Thank you so much for these gems. And you guys started touching on this just a little bit. As you just explained, you all wear different hats in this release process. So for our community, what would you suggest are like the best first steps, like as they start to map out their release process? Angela, I know you work at TuneCore, you work with a lot of indie artists as copyright lead. And on the other hand, Brian, my mistake. You work at Warner Music. There's a bunch of signed artists. You do a lot of catalog ingestion. So with your different perspectives, what's your advice on where to start?
Brian?
Yeah, so I think the thing is a lot of what we're going to say is linked. You know, we kind of have, even though we work in maybe different sectors of this release operations, I think a lot of these things are going to be intertwined because we're all making very similar points. Is like, you need your data together. You need your splits together. You need to have a plan, you know, all these things. And, you know, one thing I always tell artists is kind of like, what is your authentic brand, like your lifestyle? Like who are you trying to reach out to with your music? You know, what is your goal and intentions with the music releasing? And I saw a lot of comments saying like, oh, what's a good pre-release strategy? What's a good post-release strategy? I mean, what's your community? Like, who are you trying to reach out to? It's not going to be a template. Like, obviously there's different things that people do and there's trends people follow, but it's where's your community? Who are your super fans and who are you trying to reach out to? And I think
Exactly.
that is so vital, is understanding that your fan base wants to see the authentic you, as well as you should be one to show the authentic self to them. And that's different for everyone. And I think that's why it's like, where to start is your craft, your music. Like, honestly, that's the key. Like, we all do a lot of shit and how to release it, but like, it all comes back to the artist. Like, we can't do our jobs if your music is not up to par, or you don't even know the kind of music you want to make.
Yep.
So I think that's one thing that's really important to me. It's like, a lot of us is like, oh, well, you know, what's the plan? Like, what do I do? It's like, you are your biggest advocate. That is key. So it has to start with you, because I know a lot of people come to me like, I need to build a team. And I'm like, okay, but you can't build a team unless you know what you're trying to do. And if you're not passionate about that, about your music, you're not going to find other people that are passionate about it. So
Exactly.
I really think it starts in your authentic brand building and your authentic self and creating your music. And from there, that's where you can figure out a marketing plan. That's where you can figure out the other people you want to work with, the other artists. And like, for me, my perspective, like, obviously data is really important. Like, your metadata needs to be like really, really put together, but it really comes down to your craft, I think.
Right. I hope everyone heard that. You really have to look within, because it's all about you at the end of the day as the artist. Angela, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I have to second that completely. It's like you took the words out of my mouth. But, you know, not only what Brian said was great, like, you have to have kind of expectations of what it is that you want for yourself. But not only that, I think it's super important, and just because I see this kind of daily, is you have to set the expectations with your collaborators. You know, sometimes you could be writing a song by yourself, and that's great. But if you're collaborating, I think one of the biggest things to do is just get all of the expectations and the wants and the needs and the dreams out on the table. I think having that conversation first kind of, number one, sets the tone and kind of puts everybody on the same page. When people aren't on the same page, I don't know, I see a lot of conflicts and disputes between friends, between business partners, spouses, brothers and sisters. Like, it doesn't matter kind of who it is. It's just set the expectation, and kind of for yourself and for whoever you're with. If that makes sense.
That's very important, because as a team, you are a working body, and sometimes you are as strong as your weakest link. So make sure you set your expectations. Esther, Lauren, I know you guys handle a lot of the day-to-day. You specifically, Esther, for Team Amaarae, and Lauren, you as the label marketing executive and also a music business educator. So what would you say is a good place to start?
So from the artist perspective, I think there are definitely two top priorities when it comes to that. And to echo both Brian and Angela, it is important for your artists to know what they want to do. And that way it's a lot easier for the team to see if the vision is even achievable. So it's always a good play. It's always good to start with a conversation. Talk with your artist, get into your artist's head, try and understand, you know, their vision and what it is they're trying to create. And once you've established that, hey, this vision is realistic and achievable, then now you brainstorm on the strategies that you want to use to approach that. Once you have achieved that, come up with your strategy and whatnot, it's important to budget. Let's face it.
Budget.
Please.
Let's face it. I mean, money, whether you're an indie artist or signed to a label, money brings you closer to materializing what's on your vision board. And from the perspective of an indie artist, you're already, you know, limited with the resources that you have. And it's important for you to be able to prioritize where your budget goes, depending on the kind of campaign, depending on the objectives of the campaign that you're doing.
Right.
I could give, you know, an example where working with Amaarae, there was a time where our focus was to solidify her presence and fan base in the UK Europe territory. But then even before we identified that, we did identify various hotspots for her music and had, a promo marketing budget. But then because the goal was to solidify her presence somewhere, we decided to, put a little extra towards, plugging the music in that territory. And we saw results. Sad Girls Love Money was one of the tracks on Amaarae's last project that we did put a little spend behind and did some good radio plugging in the UK. And it went on to become, this huge banger, and then birthed the remix with, Kali Uche. So I think these two things, super important. Get into your artist's head, know what you're trying to achieve. And then once you figure that part out, then see how you can get the money, how you can make good use of the money, the resources that you have.
Yes, figure out how to get that money and budget accordingly. And if you really want to focus on one area, Esther gave a great tip, put that money behind it. Lauren, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think these are all, great things. I think ultimately, Brian said something that really, really stuck out to me. Like, at the end of the day, you have to have the record. Like the records, the music to me, I'm always, and especially as a music educator, what I tell my students is, because they're all independent, when we fight against the YouTube university, right? Because there's so many things that you say where to start and how to do things. But ultimately, it comes back down to the catalog. It comes back down to the music. The records going viral on TikTok are not what you're noticing. Some of them are new, but most of them are the mashup between A Baby, Anniversary, and My Neck, My Back. TikTok dance. All three of those are catalog records, right? These are records you can go back to and listen, because you're talking about a quality of music. So I think, like, before anything, the quality is what's the most important. Is like, make the records and make the records of quality so people can go back and listen to them and want to follow those records where they go. That's the first thing. The second thing is, absolutely, as an indie artist, I know there's like a constant fight between, we have to stay indie because the label's going to take our money, and it's like this whole thing. And as an indie artist, you need to have capital. You need to have money. Like, you have to have money to move your records around. And granted, of course, relationships and networking, those things help too. I'm not going to take that away, but there's a certain level of capital that you need to focus on to be able to move your record around. The benefit of the label is we are the machine. We have the money.
Exactly.
So of course, we're going to be able to put money behind Sad Girls Love Money in a promo run. Why? Because we have the money to put it here in the US, put marketing drivers behind it, and boom, now it's the record that you guys hear because we took it on and put some money behind it. So there's a way to do things. Like, we can't necessarily, while I understand the discrepancy between the labels and being indie and everything like that, unless you got a good access to some investors or some resources that can get you some, to move you around, the label might not be so bad when you look up and say, if I got to do this by myself, it might be kind of hard. However, I'm also a firm believer in, it only takes one hit record to change your life, right? So we can continue to use Glorilla. Like, it took one hit record to change her life. The challenge is she's gonna have to come with another one, right? Just like Amaarae, she's gonna have to come with another one too, right? We have these records that are big records and they're amazing, but now that you have access, like, what's next? So I would also say that you have to be prepared, because let's say hypothetically, if you are moving as an independent and I come and get your record and we put it out and we work it, and now the people are looking for something else and you're not ready, now we have a whole different animal that we have to attack, right? So exactly. I think, goal setting with my artists is very, very important. I sit with my artists and I am around my artists a lot. I go to their shows, I sit with them in the studio, I call them, I am on their ass all the time. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like an auntie, a mom. I call them my kids, because I have to literally get on them about just, look, be present, do what we need to do to get these records out. So I think ultimately just being preparedness is a really, really big thing. And then also too, I know Brian mentioned something about building the team. It's like, don't seek a team if you have, like, don't seek a manager if you don't have anything to manage yet. Don't seek a lawyer if you don't have anything to litigate yet. Like, don't seek a business manager if you don't have enough money to manage the business. Like let's take it one step at a time and really, really figure out, what we want to do and get the music together. And then as those things come about, you can start putting in, because remember, every time you bring somebody in, you got to pay that person too. So again, as an indie, be mindful of how the steps that you're taking and how those things can benefit or hurt you depending on which space of your career you're in.
Exactly. Those are some great tips. We've heard about copyright, budgeting, putting that budget, if you want to focus on a specific area, put that in that area. And then, have a good vision. Make sure you start with a good vision and a good team. Once you get there is always important. So our final question, we're going to pivot a little bit. We're going to have some fun. Can you guys talk about some of your favorite projects that you've worked on? Anyone can jump in and start. Esther, what about you? We know you worked with Team Amaarae since the start. She's been a part of a lot of campaigns recently. So what would you say is your favorite project?
Honestly speaking, I think my favorite project of Amaarae is her upcoming album.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's such, I should just say it's an amazing body of work. Amaarae as an artist, is incredible. She doesn't fit in a box. She's always, you never really know her next move.
Mm-hmm.
She blends different sounds and is trying to bring different worlds together sonically. So I'd say that my favorite, soon to be favorite, is her album that's going to be released. But then I also really enjoyed working with her on her last project, The Angel You Don't Know.
Yes.
That was an interesting project, and I'd say also a challenging one because of the time that we were in. We had a whole rollout planned and everything, and then COVID hit, and we had to really sit and reconfigure everything to suit the times that we were in. That's when she started doing she'd hop on her Instagram live, have these sessions with her fans, play some of the music, get their thoughts, input. She'd have like one-on-one chats with them about life, just sharing experiences. So I definitely enjoy her creative process when it comes to her, creating music, because you connect with her beyond the music, but then you connect with her as a human being as well. I think sometimes because of how fast-paced the music industry is, it's easy for artists to get lost,
Right.
And lose themselves in all of that because they're so focused on, I need to put music out, I need to stay relevant, I don't want people to forget me. Like, they're constantly on the move, and then at the end of the day, they might even end up forgetting why they started doing music, which is
exactly
to reach out, connect with people on an emotional level, because music is so fascinating that it's a language of its own. It connects people worldwide. I mean, we are sitting here, I'm in Accra and I listen to music from all parts of Africa, all parts of, the US, the UK. So yeah, music is a beautiful thing. Music is a beautiful thing.
Yes, very beautiful. Brian, we know, you create playlists, and you work with the Digilog and Gen Admissions. Do you have a favorite project of yours so far that you've worked on?
It's such a hard. I really like playlist curating. And with the Digilog, we have a partnership with AudioMac. So if you're not on AudioMac, get on AudioMac. I know there's a ton of hype there with especially a lot of rap, R&B, hip hop. But it was really, really great doing my first playlist with them because I was able to meet every artist individually and really get to know their craft and have these conversations we're talking about and saying, what drives you? What really makes you want to do this? And providing just guidance in terms of what are some things you could be doing? What do you need help with? And it was just really great because, I was really it wasn't just a Spotify playlist where I was just adding artists and that was it. It was really, I met every single one of them in person, and just getting a little knowledge about them. So that was really great. With Gen Admissions, we have a program going on right now called Camp Rock and Roll Out. It's linking artists with students and young professionals that get a chance to work on a marketing plan, roll-up plan. So that's been really, really awesome. Just seeing how excited, these campers are, and also just the one sheets and the shit they're putting out. Oh my God, I could never. And like, it just shows you though, like I'm 26 and I'm already feel like I'm getting pushed out in the sense of like content. Like, you know, it's when you're like in it, you know, like, you know how to make this stuff and you know what you're doing and you just got to do it. Like, I have like people come to me and they're like, how do I get into this industry? I want to be a manager. I want to do this. I was like, then manage. Like,
Yep.
Go on
Just
TikTok.
take that first step. Just take that first step.
Do it, like, you know. So it's been really cool to do all those things. And last one with Warner, we did a project with a label that had a ton of like Kendrick's old mixtapes, Waka Flocka, stuff like that. And that was just so cool to like get reintroduced to that kind of stuff. And like just hear it. And it was just awesome because, you know, even like Lauren was saying, like, we talk about catalog and the old stuff and just how vibrant that kind of stuff is and how powerful, you know, if you're making good music, how it's still relevant.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's a lot of great stuff.
Wow, you all are superstars, honestly. Angela, we know you do a lot of like administrative duties. So what's been your favorite project so far?
Yeah, so first of all, I just have to point out that I see a lot of head nods, and I just need to say, like, it's so funny how kind of all of us just get it. We just get it. And based off of what Brian said, I've had a very similar experience at TuneCore. So I'm not going to necessarily talk about like a favorite project, but more so of like the mission and kind of the aspects of what I do on a daily basis. I get to talk to artists all over the world. I get to, you know, understand, I get to like hear about what they understand about the music industry. I mean, specifically copyright, but, you know, other things as well when I was on the artist support team. They don't understand what they want to learn about. And frankly, like, it's very rewarding to see independent artists' dreams come true. Like, people, you know, back in the day, like, it wasn't as easy to get your music out there, to get your music, you know, accessible to the entire world. And
For sure.
kind of just being able to see independent artists like happy about seeing their content on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube, like, it's just truly rewarding. And I think working at TuneCore has been my favorite project, if I had to put it, you know, in a box. It's just being able to talk to musicians and learn about them and see what's out there, getting introduced to new music. And yeah, that's it.
Right. That's so beautiful. Just watching people's growth is just, it's a really nice process to be a part of. And Lauren, I've been dying to ask, we know you do a lot of marketing. So what's been like your favorite rollout plan?
Oh God.
So many to choose from.
Man, and when you're in it, you don't realize it's your favorite because it's so stressful, and you be like, I'm just ready for it to be over. But
yeah.
I think one that two essentially. When I was at ASCAP, it's not necessarily a rollout plan, but when I was at ASCAP, what we did was during the pandemic, we started this HBCU internship. And that was something that I made it a point to myself in my career that everywhere I went, I was going to do something for Howard, however I could make it happen. And so literally my first week there, I put together this like program, and I wanted to execute. We were going to go across the country and do different events. Obviously the pandemic hit, we couldn't do it. And what that ended up turning into was the CEO giving us a certain amount of money from the 2020 until the time she resigns as CEO, dedicated to HBCU interns for the summer. And so that was something that I was super, super proud of, because I left something behind that kind of lives beyond me. So that's the first thing. The second thing, my favorite rollout plan. I've only been with Interscope for a year and a half. So my projects haven't, you know, I have a lot of the new kids too. But I did have Conway the Machine, who was a third of Griselda, which is a big hip hop group out in New York. And as
Shout out New York.
They're out of Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
And as an LA girl who is obsessed with New York rap, they gave that to me, and I was like, oh, this is my shit. This is my time. Oh my God, up. And I did. And I was surprised at myself because I mean, Khan had never gotten the looks that he had. He came in and he was like, I want to do more DSPs. I want to get more press. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And everything that he asked for, we did. Everything. And as a result of that, I mean, we got new music daily. We got digital covers. We did we got a #1 album that week. Just our whole strategy was out of this world. And it was because I was just in it with them to push it over the line. We did a huge promo run. That was like the first of its kind where I really felt like I got something that I could work. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm really about to turn this up.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
We did well. And I always said too, that I wasn't going to go to Coachella till I had an artist on the bill, and Griselda was on the bill this year. And I got to go, all expenses paid, on his behalf. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. So it was just kind of like a full circle thing for me to be able to put that together and be a part of that. And now me and Connor like attached at the hip. And again, he's like older than me, but he's like my son, because I'm just like, I think we did a lot to make that happen. But I look forward to I always look forward as a marketer to be able to work on things I'm passionate about, like music I'm passionate about, like, artists that I'm passionate about. And that was one of them. So that was exciting.
All right, cool. Thank you for all your answers. I hope everyone took some notes down. But if you guys have any questions right now, the audience, please raise your hand using the reaction feature. Just a reminder to keep your questions short and concise as possible so that we can get through as many possible. So,
and Miya, really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Really quickly, just so we have time for the breakout rooms, what do you all think, speakers? Maybe you can let us know. Are you all cool to jump into breakout rooms and then have them ask their questions in the breakout rooms to leave time for everybody? Awesome. Right. Yeah, so Kayla and Miya, let's do that. That way we have enough time for everybody to jump into the breakout rooms.
Okay. And then I also asked Kit Kat for a bit of help. Kit Kat, how do the breakout rooms look?
They're almost ready. Just give me 2 seconds.
No problem. Thank you.
Cool. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to drop one thing that they learned today from our speakers? Let's see. Prod Lenny, how about you? I see you in the chat blowing it up.
I mean, I think it's really cool to hear Lauren working with Conway the Machine. I think that's really beautiful because I feel like Griselda is such an interesting collective because they are like older and they do make a specific type of hip hop that it can resonate with certain people, but it may not resonate with everybody. So I think it's really cool, especially like the stuff that they've been through in their life. Because I'm a really big fan of Griselda, and like seeing them now and then being a lot more mainstream and like putting out stuff to where they're still staying true to who they are, but just getting more looks. It's really nice to hear that you were part of that because I love Conway, man. He is like.
Well, it's really nice to hear that you love Conway because I worked my ass off for y'all.
Yeah, no, he raps like it's ridiculous. Like like he just raps like it's effortless, and I love it. Like I love the bravado he has and just everything. So it's nice to hear that you worked on that and helping him push that.
Yeah, I think what's important that you mentioned too, not to like take over the conversation, but I think it's important that you mentioned like Griselda has their niche audience, right? Mm-hmm. I can't push a Griselda fans, like Beyonce and Griselda are not the same. Like I can't. I mean, granted, Beyonce fans might be Griselda fans, but Griselda fans are not. It's just an interesting thing. So I can't push him on in spaces where trap music lies or things. I have to literally work in a niche audience and a niche group of people and possibly garner new fans. But I know that their particular space that they operate in is unique and it's unique to them. And so we have to make sure that we please them because they're very vocal about when we don't, right? Mm-hmm. They're very vocal about like, are they switching up? Like this feels like a home base to us, right? So it was a very different way for us to approach it because granted, we wanted bigger looks, but we still had to deliver to their audience because their audience is cult following, super fans. You know what I mean? To Brian's point, like, they have a super fan audience, all three of them. So that was the fun part about it because I got to see it from both sides.
Yeah, and it's like figuring out how to keep their core sound, but yet trying to like have like slight differences to where it could be like more interesting to new fans because Like, you know, they're not rapping on Alchemist Derringer. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But it's like, we take those same elements and maybe switch the drums a little bit, give it a little bit more, you know, a little bit more up tempo and stuff like that, even if it's just 1 or 2 songs on the project, that can be a X amount of listeners. So
Yeah.
kudos to you on that, for real.
Definitely. So Kit Kat, I've gotten the message. The breakout rooms are ready, so speakers feel free to join in. Audience, join in the breakout rooms. You should get a prompt, I believe, to join a breakout room.
In the breakout rooms, just really quickly, you all are able to ask some questions. So feel free to engage. You know, you don't always get a chance to sit in a room with a music executive. So ask some questions in there, have a good time, and we'll reconvene. Or I guess, Kayla and Miya, how are you doing it? You're switching everybody out every couple minutes?
Yeah, we'll be switching. The speakers will be rotating every 5 minutes. So just a heads up.
Cool. All right. Join your breakout rooms. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you.
I think speakers, if you go down to
Seriously, Brian, we're talking about you. You're a superstar. That's what we're saying.
Oh my God.
Awesome. I'm going to pass the mic back to Miya and Kayla.
All right, y'all. So I hope you had so much fun in the networking session, got to ask all of your questions. And that, unfortunately, guys, brings us to the end of today's event. If you learned something new, unmute yourself and give us a yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you to all of our speakers, Esther, Brian, Lauren, and Angela, for speaking with us today and allowing us to pick your brains. Thank you to our audience who tuned in today and spent your lovely Saturday morning, evening, afternoon, depending on where you were with us. Jordan, can you speak about our upcoming events?
Yes, one moment.
Cool. Is there anything you guys want to drop in the chat? One thing you learned? Let's do this. Drop one thing you learned in the chat for our speakers so they can see all the insight.
Thank you everyone again for joining us this Saturday. Hope you learned something and gained something from this event. Next week, we're going to have a mental health event, followed by learning about music festivals, just everything about that. And we hope you see you again. Thank y'all.
Cool. Speakers, any last pieces of advice or resources you guys want to drop really quick before we go?
My DMs are open. You got more questions, hit me up.
Cool. All right, Kit Kat, I'll pass the mic back to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kit Kat. I'm the general manager of Finessed Media. Thank you again, Brian, Angela, Lauren, Esther. You are all incredible. Angela, Lauren, Esther, Brian dropped his last piece of advice. Anything that you would all like to leave with our awesome community?
I just say, you know, be true to yourself, live your life, and pursue, you know, what your heart tells you, but then also have a business structure behind you just to make sure that, hey, you aren't leaving money on the table.
Yes, get that bread, please. Okay, Lauren.
Get to the money. That's what I'm saying.
Get to the bag. Get to the bag. Get your bag.
I think one thing to remember is I think we look at a lot of these superstars and we look at a lot of the artists and we look at a lot of things and we often forget the artists are people. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. We put our pants on one leg at a time, just like you all do. So don't run everybody else's race. Like your race will come in due time. Your time will come when it's supposed to. Nothing that's for you will pass you by. Not one thing. So the hit records that you have coming will be yours to have and be yours to keep, you know, and continue on your journey, even when it gets rough. I say even as an executive, even when it gets tough and you feel like you aren't where you should be. I'm telling you now that nothing that is for you will pass you by. And so keep going. That's all I can tell you guys. Keep going.
Yep. I was literally going to say the same thing. I was just going to say, don't get discouraged. It's an uphill battle sometimes, and it's going to be worth it in the end. It's just, keep chugging along. If you fall, everybody falls, and you will get back up and you will learn something and you will be better for the next time. And that's all I have to say.
Oh, Kit Kat.
There we go. And with all of that, one last big thank you to Brian, Angela, Lauren, and Esther. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone in the audience for choosing to spend your Saturday with us. We always love seeing the Finessed fam come through. And a big, massive thank you to our two lovely hosts, Miya and Kayla, for putting this event together. Can we give them a whoop whoop?
Whoop,
All right, there you go. Amazing. So we will see you all next Saturday for our next event. So happy weekend. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.